From WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your #1 source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Breaking news, Raleigh police officers have made an arrest in a deadly shooting involving a teenager on Halloween. We'll have the latest from the Live Center.
People in Clayton are on edge this noon after bullets fly overnight, striking 3 businesses.
And students at NC State are taking a step back from their normal routine to get in touch with their mental state, how they're navigating the Day of Wellness. Here in the WRAL Live Center, we are following reports that police have made an arrest in a deadly shooting that happened on Halloween involving a 16-year-old boy. A 16-year-old boy was killed. A teenager is now in jail. The shooting left a Millbrook Magnet High School student dead. 2 other teenagers also hurt in that incident. This is video from the scene from that night. The shooting happened at the River Birch apartment complex near the area of the 2700 block of Sumner Boulevard. Now, the Raleigh Police Department said through investigative means they have found the teen who they believe is responsible. That juvenile was taken into custody. Charges have not been announced because of the teen's age. They say those charges will be announced and determined in juvenile court. We're going to stay on top of this and bring you the latest from the Live Center.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Bullets fly overnight at 2 different crime scenes in Johnston County. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. Clayton police are investigating a home invasion where 1 person was shot. Just a few hours later, 3 businesses were struck by bullets. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan is live in Clayton with a look at the damage and an update on the investigations. Chelsea.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show you. We're here at Queen Nails on Highway 70 West in Clayton. You can see multiple bullet holes here. We've got one up here at the top and then one right here in the door. And these folks spent the morning cleaning up the damage. Police say just before 5 a.m., 2 people were shooting at each other outside the Circle K gas station just steps away from the Food Lion and this nail salon. 1 person was shot in the leg, according to police. And then according to that Circle K employee, 2 people were arguing inside the store. That clerk said he saw 1 person had a gun, so he went to hide in the bathroom. The fight then moved outside in the parking lot, and that's when bullets started flying, hitting the Food Lion and the nearby nail salon.
Imagine if I'm here at night and I got shot from that, it's more worse. So I still feel the blessing and be positive and fixing the shop as soon as possible so I can get back to my customer as soon.
And they're hoping to see customers coming in today. Now, hours before this incident, Clayton police were investigating an attempted home invasion on Brigadoon Drive. Police say they believe the suspect in that was shot. One of the suspects attempting to break into the resident, that suspect rather, is at the hospital at this time. Now, back here at Queen Nail, police say these 2 incidents, although just 5 minutes apart, are not related. Police have been inside interviewing multiple folks here along this strip mall. They say charges are expected to be filed today in both of those incidents. Renee.
A violent night in Clayton. All right, Chelsea Donovan, thank you.
After reports of student suicides, NC State is taking some time today to focus on mental health. They're calling it a wellness day with events to help students focus on their well-being. WRAL's Adam Owens asked students about what is worrying them right now. Adam?
And there were a number of different answers there, Jeff. We've talked to a number of students who have already taken part in some of these events planned for this Wellness Day, a roundtable to talk about the importance of well-being and taking care of your mental health. I even talked to a student who had been at one of the sessions where they were able to interact with animals as a way to calm themselves and, again, focus on their well-being. That is going to be the focus here on NC State's campus today, prioritizing mental health after what has been a shock to the system, students here tell me. 3 suicides at the school so far this semester. I talked with a number of students today about what is weighing on their mental health now. They tell me there's, of course, the pandemic that isolated and disconnected people and the uncertainty in the world they are about to enter. But every student I talked with, Jeff, also mentioned social media, every single one of them. Students here at NC State tell me they recognize the harm that social media is doing to them, the expectations it places on people, and the ugliness that is sometimes shared online. While students appreciate this Wellness Day on campus, they say those issues will not be fixed in a day.
I think it's a good thing. I think the school is doing what they can to try and help students, but I think that the issue is something that the school itself can't really fix. I think there's something going on with our society personally that's causing these things to happen, and so a Wellness Day is great, and I think it'll definitely help students out, but I'm not so sure that it'll really fix the deeper issue.
And just as important as the events that have been planned for today, Jeff, are those that have been canceled. Classes and assignments have been canceled again, so students can zero in and focus on any well-being issues that they are dealing with. And there are more days like this that are planned by officials here at NC State later in the semester. A few other students also would like to see the university step up in terms of sharing information when these terrible tragedies happen, when there's a suicide, when a student does something more drastic. They want to learn more about not only what happened, but also how they can help. They think that conversation could be bolstered as well. Back to you.
Yeah, a move to make this a proactive action right there. Adam Owens live at NC State. Thank you. Doctors and medical providers across the country are taking part in a national day of action today. The rallies are in defiance of abortion bans. The group Doctors for Abortion Access says politicians should stop creating laws that criminalize them for simply doing their jobs. Abortion providers and medical professionals from Georgia, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Texas plan to participate. Each has implemented a complete or near total ban on abortions.
Dozens of violent offenders are now off the streets. New at noon, the Durham Police Department, along with state and local agencies, shared with us the results of a team operation to bring offenders into custody. WRAL's Durham reporter Sarah Kruger is live at police headquarters with just how many people they put behind bars. Sarah.
Renee, they called this Operation Washout, and these are the numbers they are touting. 59 arrests, 7 for homicides. The police chief here in Durham says the streets of the Bull City are now notably safer.
Side by side, the Durham Sheriff, Police Chief, and representatives from the U.S. Marshals and State Department of Public Safety announced a team effort has gotten dozens of violent offenders in jail.
Focuses the efforts that we don't normally or aren't normally able to focus upon because of staffing or because of workload.
In Operation Washout, which spanned about a week in late September, the agencies partnered to target suspects wanted for violent crimes. The operation was unique in that it allowed local officers to travel out of jurisdiction to make the arrests, and federal dollars paid the officers overtime to make it possible. The operation resulted in 59 arrests, 7 for homicides. 7 gang members were taken into custody, 9 firearms seized, and about 18 kilograms of drugs taken off the streets.
But I know that has been done here certainly is impactful to our community.
Chief Andrews says she hopes the arrests will bring some closure to families of the victims.
My hope is that at least knowing that the person that had been identified as the person that had done this crime starts to help the healing process a little bit.
And I've asked police for more information about the arrest, specifically on the homicide arrest, with which cases those are associated. I am still waiting for that information. Renee.
Their work to keep neighborhoods safer. Sarah Kruger live in Durham. A Raleigh woman at the center of a WRAL investigation did not show up for court today. Charlotta Moore faces felony neglect charges after prosecutors say she left 4 children alone in her home last July. Investigators believe a 10-year-old boy beat 5-year-old Tamani Oden so severely she died days later. This morning, a judge ruled failure to appear when Moore never showed for court. He issued a $100,000 secured bond. There will likely be an order for Moore's arrest.
A man brought a gun to a protest in Pakistan today, started shooting and injured former Premier Imran Khan and killed one of his supporters. That man was arrested at the scene. Khan lost his seat in April after a no-confidence vote in Parliament. Since then, he has mobilized mass rallies across the country, claiming that he was a victim of a conspiracy by his successor and the United States. Both the new premier and officials in Washington have denied the allegations. The man charged with attacking Paul Pelosi with a hammer was in the United States illegally. Immigration officials say Canadian national David DePape entered the U.S. at a port along the California-Mexico border in early March as a temporary visitor. Generally, Canadians who are visiting for business or pleasure are allowed to stay in the U.S. for 6 months. DePape faces a list of state and federal charges. He pleaded not guilty to all state charges. He has not entered a plea in federal court.
Right now, stocks are on a downward slide, building on yesterday's losses. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down around 75 points. S&P 500 also in the red, down 30 points. NASDAQ down triple digits, 133 points. The Federal Reserve signaling that it will not pivot from its interest rate hike. At this hour, students from 2 historically black universities in Raleigh are heading to the polls to encourage more people to vote. Shaw and St. Augustine's universities are teaming up for a march to the polls. The 2 schools are encouraging students to make their voices heard in the midterms. As we speak, students are marching from Shaw University's campus to the Chavis Community Center early voting site. Early voting ends Saturday and Election Day is Tuesday.
Next at noon, a dog in Hawaii was just out to have some fun. Why his owner is in big trouble for this run-in with a seal.
Also, glaciers are disappearing in our national parks. What experts say this could mean for us in the future.
Plus, it looks like candy, but it's drugs packaged to lure your kids. How police are trying to keep them off shelves. Elizabeth?
And we've got a beautiful day in store. Right now, we're looking at partly cloudy skies over Wake County and parts of the viewing area. I'll show you who's likely to cloud up later today and who could see a few sprinkles over the next several days coming up.
Download the new WRAL streaming apps on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Android TV.
A man in Hawaii faces charges after his dog was caught on video harassing a monk seal. It happened at a national park on the Big Island. Officials say the 52-year-old man recently moved to Hawaii from the mainland. Police cited the man for harassing an endangered and threatened species and permitting a dog to stray without a leash. They're not releasing his name because of past instances in which people charged with seal harassment have received threats.
Kanye West will no longer be able to sell his White Lives Matter t-shirts in the U.S. That's because 2 black radio hosts own the federal trademark. Ramses Ja and Quentin Ward host the weekly racial justice radio show Civic Cypher. This nationwide show started in 2020 to create a space for black and brown people to have courageous conversations. An anonymous person secured the trademark and then transferred ownership to Civic Cypher LLC late last month. The hosts consider owning the trademark a responsibility that includes making sure it doesn't end up in the wrong hands. People in one Connecticut neighborhood are up in arms after someone demolished a home without a permit. This was no ordinary home either. It was built in 1677. Local officials say the homeowners had a permit to do renovations on the Thomas Hyatt home, but did not have permission to demolish the whole house. A stop work order is now in place, although many historians assume the 345-year-old home was a protected landmark. It is not listed on the state or national register of historic places.
Glaciers in 1/3 of the planet's most beautiful parks and protected areas are set to disappear by 2050, whether or not global warming is slowed. A new report on the climate crisis reveals that glaciers in Yellowstone and Yosemite National Parks are on the brink of vanishing. Renee Marsh explains what that means for our future.
Some of the world's most renowned glaciers are on track to disappear in the next 30 years, whether global warming is slowed or not. A sobering finding from United Nations researchers based on satellite data. Among the glaciers on the brink of vanishing are those in 2 of the most visited U.S. national parks, Yosemite and Yellowstone. Repeat photography documents the vanishing glaciers through time.
Glaciers are one of the most valuable indicators of climate change because they are visible. We can see with our eyes the retreat of a glacier.
The report finds that 1/3 of the planet's glaciers identified by the United Nations as locations of significance are set to disappear, and scientists warn the impact will be felt a world away.
Glaciers' retreat is contributing to about 5% of global sea level rise. The impacts of this melting can be seen in our daily lives through, for instance, floods, as well as coastal erosion and even tsunamis.
Glacier melt was believed to have contributed to 2 catastrophic floods this summer. At Yellowstone National Park, torrential rain and abnormally warm temperatures caused a wave of snowmelt that produced a foot of runoff and dangerous flooding. And in Pakistan, intense monsoon rainfall coupled with glacial melt following extreme heat in the region triggered deadly flooding.
That was Renee Marsh reporting. The report comes ahead of next week's UN-brokered international climate meeting in Egypt. The focus will be on getting countries to commit to stronger fossil fuel cuts that would limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. Never been to Yosemite, but my husband and I did go to Yellowstone 8 years ago, one of our favorite vacations. And Elizabeth, I know you and your family went to Yellowstone just this summer.
We did. We went after the flood, and pretty much everything was already open. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to visit Glacier National Park, where I think most of the glaciers in our national parks are left. And of course, you know, there are a lot of exhibits there that show the shrinking of those glaciers. And Yosemite is a perfect place also to see the impact that glaciers have had on the topography. So if you ever get a chance to visit any of those wonderful Western national parks, you should take that opportunity. And of course, we have our own fantastic national park here in North Carolina, Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Okay, I could go on and on about national parks. Let's talk about what's happening out there. Another great place to visit, Lake Gaston. This weekend, I imagine that there are going to be people out there because we're going to see temperatures around 80 degrees. It's a beautiful afternoon right now, but temperatures are going to be climbing into the low 70s. A little bit of cloud cover. I love that view because we can see so much sky and of course the pretty view of the lake from the Point restaurant. Mostly we're seeing sunshine right now. There's a weak disturbance that's sitting offshore, and that's going to spread some cloud cover across North Carolina as we head through the afternoon. Our chance for rain with this is pretty minimal, but watch Futurecast. We kick things off and you can watch those clouds spreading toward the Triangle area and into our western counties as we see time pass all the way through, say, the evening commute. It's possible that from Rocky Mount to Goldsboro and eastward that we could see an isolated shower. Most of us are just going to see increasing clouds this afternoon. Our cloud cover forecast is much lower than it was yesterday when we had all the cloud cover, looking at around the Triangle, most likely about 25 to 30% of the sky covered with clouds. Is going to change a little bit this afternoon in some places where we see those clouds shifting westward. Right now, it's lovely out. Our temperature is 66 degrees. It feels great. Our dew point's nice and low at 53. We climb into the low 70s in the next couple of hours. Looking at current temperatures, mostly in the 60s, 68 Fayetteville, 65 Rocky Mount, and 63 degrees in Roxborough. And our temperatures this afternoon will be a little above normal, looking at low to mid 70s. Carolina Hurricanes game is tomorrow, and it'll be perfect for tailgating. It should be really nice. At 6 o'clock, if you're still out in the parking lot, we're talking about temperatures in the 70s, low to mid 70s. At 8 o'clock, 68. At 10 o'clock, as folks are coming out of the PNC Arena, it's still going to be in the 60s. So it'll be a nice mild night with some cloud cover, but our chance for rain tomorrow is minimal. It's been a very warm start to November, and that continues. 68 is our normal high. Tomorrow, 75, and then into the 80s Saturday and Sunday, which is close to a record. Tomorrow, Saturday's high 81, the record 85, Sunday 80, and the record 83. So we're going to be very, very close to seeing records because of our southwesterly flow that we'll see ahead of a cold front that rolls in over the weekend. That's really going to bump up our temperatures. We'll also add a little bit of moisture to the atmosphere. We'll see an increase in our humidity over the weekend with our flow coming in off of the Atlantic, and that's going to cause our humidity to climb, our dew points climb into the 60s, and our temperatures will as well. If you're going to be out running the City of Oaks Marathon, temperatures are going to be in the 60s, and it will be a little bit humid. Not optimal conditions for the race. We do have a small chance of some showers over the weekend as well. We're going to take a look at that closely coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Tonight on WRAL News at 5:30, student loan forgiveness scams get a new twist. Con artists could have your FAFSA details. What you need to be wary of when getting those out of the blue calls.
Disgust, anger, frustration, all reactions we share when we see trash tossed out along North Carolina roads. Tonight at 6, WRAL Investigates tells us just how much litter keeps piling up, where it's coming from, and the high cost to clean it up. Some workers may not be quiet quitting, but they might be holding back valuable information from their colleagues. What's behind the trend called quiet constraint and how it could hurt businesses?
Plus, tracking holiday packages will soon get easier. The update Google is rolling out to help you keep up with your online orders.
Give you a live look at Wrightsville Beach right now, about the same temperature as it is here. Beautiful view as well. 67 degrees there as you watch WRAL News. Available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. A new trend on the job could cost companies time and money. It's called quiet constraint. It's when employees hold on to knowledge that could benefit their coworkers. More than half the workers surveyed admitted to practicing quiet constraint. Some said they did it because they were never asked to share information. Others say they mentally check out of virtual meetings because they feel disconnected from their coworkers.
Google is updating the Gmail app to help you track your holiday packages. If your order has a tracking number, you'll see the shipping status at the top of the message. The feature will be rolled out in the coming weeks and will work with most large carriers like FedEx and UPS. It's an opt-in feature, so Google won't look up tracking numbers unless you want it to. Some airlines are considering new designs to help make your future flight more fuel efficient. The new designs for commercial planes would reduce emissions and use less energy. NASA is helping to push the envelope in designs by hosting a competition. Companies must design a new plane about the size of a Boeing 737 that can carry 150 passengers. The space agency wants a prototype that could be in the air as early as 2027. The designs also need to be ready for mass production.
Pretty neat designs as well. Drug-laced snacks that could put your children at risk. Coming up, we'll show you some of the packaging from a recent bust and what you need to know to protect your children.
Also, youth sports are becoming the latest victim of inflation. We'll have a look at the financial burdens facing families across the country. First, here's a look at the winning lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Drug-laced snacks that could be marketed to your children. It's happening in North Carolina. But this morning, we learned about a major sweep that took at least some of those products off the shelves. WRAL's Brian Schrader has the pictures of the packaging and what parents need to know. Brian.
Renee, just a couple of weeks ago, a 4-year-old in Virginia died after investigators say that he ate a large amount of THC-infused gummies. Now, THC is what gives marijuana its narcotic effect. And edibles are not legal in North Carolina, but some of the products, as you see here, have found their way into the stores. Take a look at some of these pictures of some of the items seized recently in a statewide sweep. They look similar to well-known snack brands like Jolly Ranchers and Fritos, but these are counterfeits, and all are THC-infused gummies and snacks. Secretary of State Elaine Marshall said that her office saw this trend coming, did some training with police just a couple of months ago, and they recently seized more than $225,000 of products from stores all over North Carolina.
Parents need to be concerned. I mean, if they are consuming this by their choice, they need to make sure that it is absolutely where pets and kids cannot get a hold of it.
And Marshall says you need to look very closely at the packaging. They will be marked as having THC or being an edible, but those symbols can be hard to see. And as for the merchants selling those products that you saw, Marshall said this sweep was an educational effort, but if undercover officers find these products on the shelves again, the store owners could face charges.
It is amazing how those packages look so much like the brands that we all know and love, right? Brian, thanks.
A home under renovation goes up in flames, causing major damage overnight. It also forced neighbors to evacuate. WRAL's Naya Harden is at the scene on Eva Street with what we know so far.
The fire is now out. Investigators are on the scene and neighbors are back in their homes. But this was a close call for them. A picture from the fire department showing the heavy smoke coming from the house. Investigators say no one was living in the home because it was being renovated. Crews were able to get the fire out quickly this morning, but the home was declared destroyed. The neighbor's home even had some damage, some minor heat damage to the side of it. Now, how this fire happened is still unclear. That's what investigators are working out right now. They tell me that they are bringing in a canine to be able to take a look at things as well. They plan to be here for the next few hours. Nia Harden, WRAL News in Durham.
A 19-year-old is charged with murder after police say he killed his girlfriend's baby. Officers in Rocky Mount arrested Isaiah Miller. They started investigating going back to October 23rd after learning about the death of a 15-month-old boy on York Street. His death was initially reported as the result of a fall. Police later found the baby died of internal injuries, but didn't go into any more detail. Miller is being held in jail without bond.
Happening now in the WRAL Live Center, the search for survivors has been called off in India after that deadly bridge collapse that happened on Sunday. More than 50 children were among the 135 people killed when this bridge collapsed on Sunday. Local fire teams, as well as state and national disaster teams, will be kept on standby there just in case. The suspension footbridge gave way, sending 135 people plunging 33 feet into the water. Some 200 people were estimated to be on the bridge at the time. 135 were killed. So far, 9 people have been arrested because of it.
Michelle, thanks. North Korea fired at least 3 more missiles today, including an intercontinental ballistic missile. Today's test comes just one day after Kim Jong-un launched a record of at least 23 missiles in a single day. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer reports on the escalating tensions from Beijing.
More North Korean missiles today. At least 3 were launched, including a suspected intercontinental ballistic missile that Japanese officials worried was going to fly right over the country. This follows that historic day yesterday with at least 23 missiles fired and getting closer to South Korea than ever before. The timing of this is not coincidental, with the U.S. and South Korea in military drills this week involving thousands of military personnel and 240 aircraft. North Korea had warned the 2 countries to call off the drills or they would, quote, pay the most horrible price in history. The White House this morning releasing a statement condemning the recent launches and urging all countries to do so as they are a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. But it is all seen as a prelude to what is next. That is a probable nuclear test by Kim Jong-un. It will be his 7th. He has not done one since 2017. But satellite images and intelligence reports suggest that Kim has made all of the preparations, and that nuclear test could come any day. Janice Mackey-Frayer, NBC News, Beijing.
The White House called out North Korea for allegedly shipping military weapons to Russia in a bid to help Moscow's war effort in Ukraine.
And the war in Ukraine, where Russian military officials have discussed how and under what conditions Russia would use a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine. Some U.S. officials have heightened concern that Russia could use nuclear weapons there. An assessment from the National Intelligence Council suggests what might prompt such a strike. Some officials believe the analysis takes conversations out of context. Others are more concerned.
It might not be just a demonstration strike in the ocean or something like this, but they might actually be used to achieve a battlefield impact.
In a statement, Russia said it would only use nuclear weapons in response to an attack threatening the existence of its country.
Parents, if your kids are in sports, you know how expensive it can get with travel and equipment. Why more families are having to say no to enrolling their kids in sports.
Plus, we'll explain how the level of stress in your relationship can affect your recovery if you have a heart attack. If you see news happening or you'd like to share a story idea with us, click Report It in the WRAL News app. Americans continue to feel the sting of inflation, with elevated prices keeping wallets tight. It is causing families to make some tough choices. Kevin Cork explains for many families enrolling their kids in sports this fall, it may not be in their budget.
Childhood sports are the latest victim of inflation.
I feel horrible that I can't let him play on more advanced teams.
The annual rate of inflation for the 12 months ending in September was a whopping 8.2%, according to the Consumer Price Index. With budgets maxed out, many families are continuing to limit non-essential purchases, and that's beginning to include enrolling their kids in sports.
We're watching prices rise while our income stays the same.
According to a recent study from LendingTree, roughly 60% of families say their child's involvement in sports this fall are straining their finances, with 1 in 5 claiming they spend about $1,000 or more for their kid to be on a team.
The least expensive one I found when I was trying to find one for him was, I believe, $600 for the season. And that didn't cover bats, gloves, shoes.
Add in travel expenses for away games and gas to get them to practices, and the economic burden is amplified. Parents like Rachel Kennedy of Ohio are trying to be honest with their kids about the situation they're facing.
I try to make sure that he understands it's not his responsibility. It's not his fault that we are in this position.
That was Kevin Cork reporting, and this all comes as teams, group sports are also facing elevated costs to use sporting venues, as well as hiring coaches and referees, and of course the groundskeepers as well.
Poor sleep could put you at risk of going blind. That's according to a study out of China. Researchers analyzed the data of more than 400,000 people between the ages of 40 and 69. Participants gave details about their sleeping patterns over 4 years. Researchers found that people who experience insomnia, snoring, and daytime sleepiness had high risks of developing glaucoma. Marital stress is now linked to worse recovery after a heart attack. New data from the American Heart Association offers new insight into the mind-body connection. Participants reporting severe stress in their marriage were 2/3 more likely to report chest pains than those with mild or no stress. More women than men reported severe marital stress after a heart attack, almost 4 in 10 women versus 3 out of 10 men.
Our brains may be to blame for a fear of having change. Neurosurgeons say that children usually cope better with change than adults because they experience it more often. 4 things are needed before change can happen: dissatisfaction with how things are going, a vision of what is possible, have you taken steps toward a vision, and creative leadership to help a person toward it. Parents, you may have seen solar panels on the roof of your children's school. Next at noon, the school district that is making this eco-friendly energy option the rule and not the exception.
And here's something you don't see every day: a herd of elk stopping traffic. The question is, who has the right of way? Give that some thought as we head to break. Happening now in the Live Center, the parents of Gabby Petito have filed a $50 million wrongful death lawsuit saying police could have saved her life. They filed it against the Moab City Police Department, alleging that its officers were negligent in their interactions with the 22-year-old and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, weeks before her death last summer. The lawsuit accuses the department and its officers of failing to follow the law and failing to protect her during an investigation into a domestic disturbance back in August. The city of Moab issued a statement on Thursday denying responsibility, saying they would defend against this lawsuit. A school district in Minnesota is setting the bar high when it comes to sustainability. As many as 80 schools in that state get their energy from the sun, and they want to see others do the same. Courtney Godry reports on this growing trend.
High above the hallways of this Eden Prairie Elementary School is the district's cost-saving secret.
It didn't cost us money on the front end, but each year we receive savings from it.
2,200 solar panels at this school alone, powering learning one sunbeam at a time.
The money that we save, which is up to $6.1 million over 25 years, is going to be invested right back into classrooms and be a benefit for our students.
The district's executive director of business services, Jason Mutzenberger, says every single public school in Eden Prairie has solar panels on the roof. Along with subscribing to 3 local solar gardens, the district currently gets 85% of its energy from the sun. With plans for a massive expansion at Eden Prairie High School and Central Middle School next year.
I think this is a great opportunity for you to help control your bottom line in the school district.
Then why aren't more districts doing it? Mutzenberger believes the facility's maintenance intimidates decision makers.
I think one of the drawbacks for school districts is putting a solar array on their rooftop. We often protect our roofs. We don't want water penetration within the building, and so we're often very careful about what ends up here on the rooftops. And so we've been trying to get the word out to other school districts.
That was Courtney Godfrey reporting. The district is applying for grants to replace diesel buses with electric as they continue to look toward the future.
People in the military community have this opportunity. Dozens of businesses are looking to hire today. Recruit Military is hosting a hiring event at Fort Bragg. 90 employers are looking to bring in veterans, military spouses, and members of the National Guard or Reserve. Today's hiring event runs until 3 at the Iron Mike Conference and Catering Center. The Fayetteville Veterans Day Parade is this weekend, honoring military veterans at Fort Bragg and those who support and help veterans in Cumberland County. This is video from last year's parade. It features a convoy of military vehicles, marching bands, and so much more for you to see. It starts at 10 a.m. on Hay Street in front of the Airborne and Special Ops Museum. WRAL Fayetteville reporter, former Army Ranger Gilbert Bays is master of ceremonies. You can watch the parade Saturday on WRAL News Plus and WRL's digital platforms. And it'll be a nice day this weekend for a parade. A little bit warm. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRL Severe Weather Center with those temperatures on the rise.
Yeah, well above normal for the weekend. We're going to talk more about that coming up in a minute. Earlier, about half an hour ago, we talked about how close to record highs we're going to be. Checking out Wilson this morning, looking beautiful this afternoon, I should say. Some sunshine, a couple of little puffy clouds, and a nice breeze moving those whirly gigs around a little bit. So we're going to take a closer look at what's happening across North Carolina. Right here off the coast, you can see a little bit of precipitation, a little bit of cloud cover. There's a weak disturbance there that is likely to push a few more clouds into our area as we get through the afternoon. Could be an isolated shower along and east of, say, the I-95 corridor, but it would be isolated at best. Tomorrow's looking pretty dry. We'll continue to see that same flow that you can see as we move it ahead to tomorrow morning. A little bit of precipitation still sitting offshore, and with that flow coming inland from the coast, we could Friday evening see a quick little shower. This is maybe a little bit overdone in terms of the coverage. It's a very, very small chance. And then the weekend is looking pretty dry, but there is a caveat. A couple things happening. Number one is we'll continue to see that flow at least early on during the day Saturday coming in off the coast. And that's going to help to create some showers in the mountains and as far eastward as the Triad area and possibly Charlotte. We're going to see a cold front that starts to approach, and that's going to interact with some of that coastal moisture. Notice how we stay dry here across our viewing area, but that rain is just back here to the west. Now, for some reason, if it happens to slide a little bit farther to the east, we could see a bit more rain. But the models for us in our viewing area are definitely trending drier. So there's 5 o'clock Saturday. That line continues to stay just to our west, and then that front moves in, kind of energizes it and brings that chance for rain. But for us, Saturday and Sunday look like they'll be fairly dry. But again, we'll be watching that line. As you can see it, anywhere from an inch to about an inch and a half from Greensboro to Charlotte in terms of our rainfall. But then you look at the Triangle area and in Fayetteville, and it's 1/10 of an inch. So a big difference there depending on where that boundary lines up. So an isolated chance of a shower, we could see that this afternoon. Really Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and at any point we could see just a tiny bit of a shower. And it was a very dry month of October. We ended up seeing very little rain across most of the viewing area. As a matter of fact, Fayetteville saw less than 1/2 inch of rain. So this is a look at our drought monitor. This just came out, and more of the state has become abnormally dry. As a matter of fact, over 80% of our state is now abnormally dry. We did have moderate drought last week come creeping into parts of Sampson County, and now just a sliver of Moore County as well. That's new. Football Friday looking good for us. We're going to see temperatures feeling good for football, and then Saturday it looks great as well. Looking at our temperatures for NC State's game against Wake Forest in the 70s as that game kicks off at around 8 o'clock. 7-day forecast looking like this. Again, don't forget we can set those clocks back. Next week it stays mild, but we start to see some cooler temperatures by Wednesday and possibly our next best chance of rain next Thursday, a week from today.
Elizabeth, thanks. When we come back, we'll take you to a community in Colorado where elk rules and why residents are okay with that. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today. Raleigh police have taken a teenager in custody in connection to a shooting on Halloween night. 16-year-old Xavier Lawton was killed. 2 other teens were injured. It happened over on Sumner Boulevard. Raleigh police did not release the name of the teen they took into custody.
Police in Clayton are investigating after they say 2 people shot at each other outside a gas station in the area. According to a Circle K employee, 2 people were arguing inside the store and they weren't outside then. Bullets ended up shattering the windows of a Food Lion nearby, and police say 1 person was shot in the leg. That shooting is under investigation.
After reports of student suicides, NC State is pausing today to focus on mental health. They're calling it a wellness day with events to help students focus on their well-being. There was a roundtable on mental health this morning. There have been 3 suicides at the school so far this semester.
A Wake County high school is showcasing its new music technology classroom. We have new video into our newsroom of the state-of-the-art work that's space at Millbrook Magnet High. This is where students get to write and produce different styles of music. A Save the Music Foundation grant from VH1 made it all possible. And VH1 reps also got to hear some of the music the students produced.
Digital signs are up all around downtown Raleigh, pointing out weekend road closures. The 16th annual City of Oaks Marathon is Sunday. You're looking at video from last year when 4,000 people took part in the event. Runners can choose to run a full marathon, a half marathon, 10K or 5K. It's not too late to register. Several roads in and around downtown Raleigh will be closed for much of the day. WRAL is a proud sponsor of the event.
It is not every day that you witness a herd of elk crossing a busy street, but it's just any other day in Evergreen, Colorado. This was the scene right near, well, you'd expect Elk Meadow Park. Yeah, it's probably how the area got its name. One driver recorded all those elk on a cell phone as they casually strolled across the street. And just when you thought it was over, another group decides to join them. Of course, the drivers weren't going to argue about who had the right of way here. They are big animals. Time now for Pet of the Day. Cobalt is a 3-month-old neutered male kitten. Just imagine those big yellow eyes looking up at you lovingly every day. Cobalt, his mom, and litter mates were abandoned in a basket at a local park. And now he's all grown up and ready to find a forever home of his own. Cobalt is playful and friendly, loves cat trees and all kinds of toys, and he wouldn't mind modeling for photo shoots. Interested adopters can get more information at spcawake.org.
WRAL News returns at 4, but you can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app.
Want more news and weather? Coverage continues across all major streaming platforms using the WRAL app and on the radio at 99.3.